Today, we're doing a deep dive into a stack of sources detailing the life of a Japanese racehorse named Verxina. She was born in 2009. And the mission for this deep dive, for you listening, is to explore how an athlete built a permanent legacy, not by winning, but, well, by enduring just the most agonizing string of second-place finishes in racing history. Yeah, but before we get into all that heartbreak, we really have to establish the immense and, frankly, kind of intimidating expectations this horse was born into.
Oh, for sure. Verxina was not some Cinderella story coming out of nowhere.
No, not at all. She was racing royalty.
Yeah.
Her sire, her father, was Deep Impact.
Who is widely considered one of the greatest Japanese horses of all time.
Exactly. And her mother was Sweet, a mare who was incredibly beloved by racing fans. They affectionately called her the tailless horse. The owner is Kazuhiro Sasaki, who is a former baseball superstar.
Yeah, a massive celebrity in his own right.
Right. And during Sweet's racing days, Sasaki falls in love with her running style. So he makes this completely audacious vow.
He promises to purchase and own every single one of her foals.
Yes. Which, I look at that like a sports manager betting their entire franchise budget on a single, unproven rookie family.
Yeah.
Just banking entirely on a gut feeling about their genetics. But, his gamble pays off to an absurd degree. Verxina's the second foal, and early on, she is trained by Yasuo Tomomichi, and Verxina just carries the weight of that promise effortlessly. Even her name, Verxina, it comes from the Russian word for summit.
Which is very fitting for how she started.
Right. She comes out of the gate winning 3 of her first 4 starts, including a Grade 3 race, the Queen Cup. So because of that early Grade 3 win, Verxina establishes herself as a major contender for the fillies Triple Tiara. And this is where Verxina's trajectory meets a massive wall, a wall named Gentildonna.
The immovable object.
Exactly. Yeah. So the first meeting is the Okasho, the speed test. Verxina positions herself near the front, fights hard in the final stretch, shakes off the other major rivals. For a few seconds, she actually has the lead.
She looks like the winner.
She does. But then, flying from the outside, comes Gentildonna, beating Verxina by half a length.
And half a length is incredibly close. Tactically, a trainer looks at that and thinks, we can make an adjustment here.
Like maybe the jockey messed up slightly.
Yeah, maybe they asked for speed a fraction of a second too early, or a slight headwind caught them. It's a margin that definitely gives you hope for the next race.
And the public certainly thought so, because heading into the second duel, the Oaks, the betters, actually favor Verxina.
They thought she'd get her revenge.
Right. But the result isn't a slight adjustment, it's an absolute demolition. Gentildonna wins by a massive 5 lengths. Verxina is second again.
Ouch.
Yeah. Now, after suffering a massive 5-length defeat, how do you physiologically and mentally prep a 1,000-pound animal for the next meeting?
Well, it requires an intense read of the animal's psychology. A 5-length loss is a statement of total physical dominance. The winner isn't just faster, they are operating in a different atmospheric layer.
So how do you fix that?
To rebuild a horse after that, trainers often drop them in class during morning workouts. They pair the defeated horse with slower stablemates to let them, quote-unquote, win practice runs.
Well, that's clever.
Yeah, it artificially reinflates their confidence and competitive instinct before throwing them back into elite competition.
Well, whatever Tomomichi's team did, it got her back to the starting gate.
Yeah.
But the results just didn't change. Autumn arrives. They meet at a prep race called the Rose Stakes. Second place to Gentildonna. Again. Then comes the Shuka Show, the final jewel of the Triple Tiara. They come down the stretch side by side. It is just a sheer battle of physical endurance.
Neither mare is yielding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They cross the line, and Verxina loses by a single nose.
Ah, a nose. In terms of biomechanics, losing by a nose means your stride was merely in the wrong phase of its physical extension as you cross the wire.
It's just bad timing.
Literally the flaring of a nostril. But the historical weight of that is staggering. Even including male horses, only one other horse in the entire history of Japanese racing had ever finished second in all 3 Triple Tiara races to the exact same rival.
Wait, I really have to push back here for a second. We are talking about this horse like she's a human athlete reading her own press clippings, internalizing this historical runner-up status.
Right.
Does a horse actually understand the concept of a rivalry? Or are we just projecting our own human heartbreak onto a 1,000-pound animal that simply got physically tired at the end of a race?
That is a very crucial distinction. And no, obviously a horse doesn't understand the concept of a triple tiara.
Right, they don't care about the trophies.
Exactly. However, they absolutely understand dominance and submission. Horses are herd animals with a very strict social hierarchy.
Okay, so how does that play out in a race?
When a horse is running shoulder to shoulder with another horse at 40 miles an hour, their heart rates are maxed out, their lungs are burning, and they are engaged in a profound physical dispute for dominance. Wow.
And when the exact same specific horse overpowers you at the point of maximum exhaustion 3 times in a row, the herd animal learns that this specific rival is the alpha. It creates a physical memory of submission.
That makes perfect sense. So even without understanding the history books, she understands the physical trauma of being dominated by Gentildonna.
Precisely.
And unfortunately, the public narrative permanently shifts. She goes from being the brilliant daughter of Deep Impact to being branded as the eternal second.
Which is such a tough label to shake.
It is. Which brings us to this massive turning point, the Queen Elizabeth II Cup. Gentildonna is absent from this race.
The nemesis is gone.
The nemesis is gone, the stage is completely clear, and Verxina enters as the overwhelming 1.9 odds favorite.
Because the assumption here is simple subtraction. If the alpha isn't in the race, the horse who is clearly better than everyone else should win easily.
But she finishes second. Again, to a completely different horse.
Oh, man. And that is the moment the label really solidifies. Because that was her 5th consecutive graded stakes runner-up finish. But explain the mechanism behind that loss. If her nemesis isn't there, why does she still lose?
It comes back to that learned physical memory we just discussed. When a horse expects to be caught at the end of a race, their competitive drive can falter.
Like a mental block.
Exactly. It's a form of learned helplessness. They reach the final 200 meters, which is the exact point where they are used to experiencing the trauma of being overpowered, and the physical fight simply isn't there anymore. They basically brace for the loss before it happens.
And we see that biological toll completely manifest the following year. She returns at age 4 for the Osaka High, and the performance is just dismal. She finishes 6th.
At this point, the spark seems totally gone.
It really does. But then she enters the Victoria Mile. She's actually still the favorite based on her history. And in the final stretch, something finally clicks. She fights off the pack, refuses to let anyone pass her, and crosses the line first to win her first Grade 1 title.
Which was a massive release of pressure for her owner, Kazuhiro Sasaki. Yeah, after millions of yen spent and all that high-profile heartbreak, this was his very first Grade 1 victory as an owner. The team had finally reached the summit.
But you know, in a Hollywood movie, the credits would roll right here.
Oh, absolutely.
But real life doesn't stop at the happy ending. Winning that Grade 1 actually seemed to trigger a total collapse. Post-victory, her form completely evaporates. The losses just pile up.
It's sad to watch.
And she isn't finishing second anymore. She's finishing way back in the pack. The public consensus writes her off entirely. They say, you know, she's finished. But trainer Yasuo Tomomichi and his staff, they refuse to give up. They don't let her career end on a quiet fade into obscurity. They work tirelessly on rebuilding her spirit over the next year.
They really did.
Which brings us to her age 5 season. The Victoria Mile rolls around again, and the context is night and day compared to her win the previous year.
Totally different.
She enters as the 11th favorite. Nobody believes in her. The defending champion is essentially viewed as a ghost by the betting public.
She was entirely dismissed. So Tomomichi's team decides, well, we have nothing to lose, and they implement a radical tactical shift.
Right, because for her whole career, Verxina had a specific running style. She would position herself near the front, conserve energy in the slipstream of the leaders, and wait to strike.
But this time, the gates open, and she goes straight to the front.
It's a wire-to-wire run.
Yep. On a long, demanding straightaway like Tokyo, front runners usually collapse from exhaustion in the final 100 meters.
But she doesn't collapse. Down that long Tokyo stretch, with the entire field bearing down on her, she refuses to yield. She holds off every single challenger and crosses the line first.
It was an incredible performance.
And she becomes the first horse in history to win back-to-back Victoria Miles. A true, gritty resurrection. But a story about Verxina isn't complete without addressing the ghost of her past one last time.
No, it wouldn't be.
Later that same year, at the Takarazuka Kinnan, Verxina puts in a phenomenal effort and finishes 3rd. But the critical detail is that Gentildonna was in that race. And for the very first time in 6 meetings, Verxina finished ahead of her rival.
Which provided a vital piece of closure. It proved physically and definitively that the monster could be beaten.
Which sets up the end of 2014, the Arima Kinnin. A truly poetic ending. Gentildonna's camp announces this will be her grand retirement race. Now, originally, Verxina was supposed to retire earlier.
Right, she had run in the Japan Cup.
Yeah, she ran, she lost, and was slated to head to the breeding sheds. But her connections intentionally delay her retirement. They choose to race her against her old rival one final time.
And you have to understand, you do not delay a valuable broodmare's retirement lightly.
It's risky.
Very risky. Every race carries the potential for catastrophic injury, which would ruin a massive biological asset. The fact that her team kept her in training specifically for this race shows how deeply intertwined their legacies were. They understood that the story needed a final chapter.
So the gates open for the Arima Kinnin. Verxina, true to her resurrected spirit, boldly takes the lead, setting the pace. Gentildonna is stalking her from third. They hit the fourth corner, and the champion, Gentildonna, surges. She passes Verxina, pulls away, and wins the race, leaving the sport exactly as she dominated it.
And Verxina.
She fades all the way back to 14th place.
It is the brutal reality of elite sports. There is no sentimentality on the track.
No, there really isn't. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but I think it was incredibly honest to their dynamic. The reality of their entire careers was essentially synthesized into that final corner.
Yeah, it was a very fitting conclusion.
So Verxina retires with around 460 million yen in earnings, and at Northern Farm, she begins her second career as a broodmare.
And let's explain what that transition means for those who might not know. When a top-tier mare retires, she transitions from an athlete into a genetic foundation for the breeding farm.
Her new job.
Her new job is to pass down her physical traits, bone structure, lung capacity, muscle twitch fibers, and hopefully her psychological tenacity to the next generation.
And she does exactly that. Her very first foal, Bravas, goes on to win the Niigata Kinnin. But the echoes of her rivalry, this is what genuinely blew my mind.
It's amazing.
Verxina has a daughter named Divina, who becomes a talented racer herself, winning the Fuchu Himba Stakes.
Yeah.
In 2023, Divina enters the Queen Elizabeth II Cup, and who's lined up in the starting gate next to her, a horse named Geraldina.
Yep.
And who is Geraldina? The daughter of Gentildonna.
It just perfectly demonstrates how the sport physically passes narratives down through bloodlines. We aren't just looking at names on a page, we are looking at the literal genetic continuation of a rivalry.
The next generation carrying the torch.
Exactly. The physical traits and the competitive fire of that 2012 generation were bred directly into the horses competing a full decade later.
So looking back at the incredible 2012 generation, Verxina is undoubtedly one of its defining figures. I mean, without Gentildonna, Verxina likely possesses the physical talent, the pedigree, and the mechanics to easily be a triple tiara winner.
Oh, without a doubt.
But her legacy is permanent, precisely because she didn't get the easy path. She is remembered because she never stopped fighting an opponent who was scientifically, physically, and historically superior.
Because if she had easily dominated a weaker field, she would be in the record books, sure, but she wouldn't be a legend.
Right.
Her story provides a masterclass in endurance.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.